What's going on, everyone? So something impacted in Poland yesterday, killing 2 civilians. I saw a lot of commentary, nervous that it was a false flag attack that could lead us into the next World War. I don't think it was a false flag. Or if it was a bad one. Here's why. So first off, this is being recorded at 11 a.m. Central Time on November 16th, 2022. There's a bunch of additional information constantly coming out, but it does look more and more like the culprit was a couple Ukrainian S-300 interceptor missiles that detonated on Polish territory. Now, I'm not solving any mysteries in this video. It sounds like the answer to this question is already out there. All I'm doing is showing how I walk through some of this information as it comes out to kind of piece together what fits and what doesn't. One man's process, one man's opinion. I do know that some people are really good at analyzing pictures and geolocating videos and images and all this stuff from afar. I'm not super confident in my ability to do that, especially from 1,000+ miles away. So instead, when things like this happen, I try to look big picture to see what passes the common sense test. So for starters, Russia does have the ability to range the impact point in Poland, which is marked on this map with a yellow star. If it was a cruise missile, it could have been fired from inside of Russia. If it was something shorter range, to include an S-300 in ground attack mode, that could be fired from Belarus. Russia has locations in western Belarus that are well within range. Adding to the complexity, a lot of weapon systems are operated both by Russia and Ukraine, especially the S-300 air defense system. So when you hear something like it was a Russian-made munition, that doesn't really narrow it down at all. But in terms of location, the strike was in a rural area in eastern Poland, just a few miles from the border with Ukraine, and no disrespect intended to the 2 that were killed. That's tragic, but there's not much there in terms of a viable military target. Looking at a map, we have the location of missile strikes all across Ukraine on November 15th. The yellow star marks the impact point in Poland. The nearest Russian base just to the north in Belarus, Brest, and the nearest NATO bases, or nearest publicly known NATO bases, are 250 and 175 miles away. They're not on this map, actually, to the north and the west, to the northwest and the west. So if you look at where that impact point is, 60 miles and 40 miles, respectively, from where missiles impacted in Ukraine that day, it's well within reason that a malfunction or a misfire or something could have landed where it did in Poland. So the biggest factor for me when looking at this whole situation, determining whether or not it could be a potential false flag is, and even without knowing what munition was used as people are investigating on the ground, there's too much room for deniability. So typically for a false flag attack to be successful in tricking the population or a population that country B did something instead of country A, you want to paint your adversary into a corner and make it to where the only logical explanation is that they carried out that act intentionally. That's really not what we're seeing here. So a strike on or near a NATO base in Poland or elsewhere, that would up the ante. It'd be hard for Russia to deny that as much, I'd say. Even a border crossing, specifically the ones between Poland and Ukraine, the vast majority of equipment, Western equipment flowing into Ukraine is coming through Poland. So keeping those border crossings open, operational, and flowing freely throughout the day are critical to the Ukrainian war effort. If Russia were to carry out a strike, or if there was a false flag strike carried out near one of those border crossings, it would be much easier to put the spotlight on Russia and place the blame at their feet until the evidence showed something otherwise. But a field far from any significant NATO infrastructure or border crossing, it's very easy to explain away as a malfunction. So again, looks like it was Ukrainian S-300 interceptor missiles that failed or misfired, but even before or without that information, there's a lot of other pieces that make this look like it is not a false flag attack, or if it was a bad one. But something to keep in mind, the news that this is a Ukrainian S-300 missile is good news. It likely means that escalation is pushed down the road and not happening immediately, which could have been the case if these were Russian missiles. But that's it. That's all I got. Let me know what you think. Is it a false flag? Was it a failed false flag? Was it just a Ukrainian missile that misfired or malfunctioned, or something else entirely? That'll do it for now. We'll see y'all next time.